Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Sorry, as I'm like typing things that I forgot to put up here that are not spelled correctly. Um, Sorry, guys. There's always some type of technical thing. Woo! Okay, I did it. So, first things first, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on your birthday.
Yeah.
Everyone, wish Flo a happy birthday if you are watching this.
Thanks.
You get to spend your birthday talking to me. Also, comment with the hashtag Crude for a chance to win a ticket to the upcoming the More You Know Pet Wellness Summit. We are like 2 weeks out, you guys, which
That's
is
insane.
crazy, 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 crazy. I'm tired, very tired, and we're not even here yet. So here we go. So for those of you guys who do not know who this lovely lady is, this is Flo. I see a cat. Gotta love it. Wouldn't be alive without an animal in the background.
This is Mickey. He has half socks because he just got neutered.
Hey, dude. So adorable. Flo is the owner and founder of Crude Carnivore. And if you shop in the store, you probably are familiar with Crude Carnivore. It is a bone broth. It is the one that is in the beautiful, pretty glass bottles and not plastic.
Yes.
So we love that. Also, I would like to comment that I love your wallpaper. We both have floral dog wallpaper. So I appreciate that about you. So anyways, yeah. So welcome, Flo. Thank you for coming onto my live today. And let's talk about you, your story, how you got here, all the fun things. And we're going to talk about some benefits of bone broth. And yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I wouldn't want to be talking to anybody else on a live on my birthday. So I'm a dog mom. These dogs, and I have 5 cats. So I didn't always have that many animals. It just happened, and they just find me.
You still have less than me.
Hey, I feel good.
Not far though.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I'm going nuts half the time. But so these 2 in the middle were my dogs when I started Crude, and they're actually on the bottle, on the label at the bottom. There's like little black silhouettes on every bottle, and that's these 2 dogs, Marvin and Hurley. And Crude was born. I was working as a pet nutritionist at a local pet store and have a master's degree in animal nutrition. So I was doing all that kind of at the same time. And I just always noticed how much dogs and cats, but dogs primarily, do better with moisture in their bowl, especially kibble fed dogs. It was just a game changer, just adding water. And at the time, there wasn't really any broths that were just herb infused, didn't have any filler ingredients or starchy ingredients, and really no like pasture raised bone broths. And so I just kind of went to a local butcher shop and sourced some bones and saw to try to see if dogs would even eat herb infused bone broth. And it went over really well. And we started with beef, and then I slowly found my way into a bunch of local farms in our area and have connected with them. And we still to this day, 6 years later, use this like mostly the same farms that we started with. And so we produce everything in-house still. We produce in like 72 bottles at a time. It's very, very small micro production. And we ship nationwide. We are in multiple retail stores. We ship direct as well. But I just love like the retail store energy, and especially stores like yours that do so much for the pet parents in the community. I feel like that's where we're really making changes, like you and your employees are really educating customers on what the best, options are for pets. And so I think that's really special, and it does the most because you have so much more of an outreach than just me.
Right.
Crude is now going to be 6 next. Well, hold on. What month is it? In August. And we have 8 proteins right now. And I'm not really sure what it's going to look like because I'm having a baby and I don't know how much time.
Yes, the cat is out of the bag. I know you did post about it. So
yeah.
Yes, there's a baby on the way. So that is super exciting for you. Just add to the chaos a little bit more.
Yeah, I have so many ideas of things that I want to do and like broths that I want to make and products and stuff. And I'm just like, we still gonna swing this one before January, or are we gonna just like wait till after?
Yeah,
but
you'll figure it out.
yeah, I think
You
it'll
get a
be,
routine going, makes things a little bit easier.
yeah, I think it'll be a fun, like, little crude baby that's just gonna be, running around and
I
yeah.
laugh because people are like, "Oh, what did you do? You had a baby?" Like I set my off when Aiden was born. I set my office up as like a baby nursery, and I came back after he was 8 days old, and he just sat in the
Sure.
office and chilled and like worked, and then I would like put him in the wrap in the Moby, and I'd ring customers with it, and
Yeah.
now they're stacking cans out there, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that's fun.
truly
Yeah.
a family-owned thing, and that's how it's gonna be with you.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna have a baby strapped to my chest while I'm like filling broth.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah,
So you
we're
mentioned you have, did you say you have 8 proteins?
yeah.
What are the different proteins that you have right now for bone broth?
So the basic ones, I kind of put them in the basic category, kind of like dailies, I guess I call them. We have beef, chicken, pork, and turkey. So those are the 4, and we kind of started with those. And then we also have bison, mushroom, rabbit, and lamb. Lamb is hard. It's hard to source. So it's kind of like always, it's more like special, I would say. Like it's here sometimes, and then sometimes it's not. So it's kind of frustrating. And we're trying to find a solution for that. But yeah, bison, rabbit, and mushroom are definitely what makes Crude very unique. We
Yes.
like nobody else has like a pure mushroom bone broth, or not bone broth, mushroom broth. And then our bison has shiitake mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, cilantro, and oregano. So we are, a little bit of a different nutrient profile with that one. And then our bison, everything is locally sourced for the most part, except for rabbit. The bison actually live on a farm that's like an hour from me. And
Wow.
Margaret is awesome. She's so cool. And I want to go out there and like get some footage and stuff of them, but they are so mean. She says like bison are extremely mean.
Really?
You can't really get close. Yeah. And, but it's just really cool. Like
French shape, why not nice,
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. They're just not very nice.
So what, as a retailer, I have, multiple brands of bone broth in the store. But then as a consumer, people are like, well, why should I buy bone broth from a pet store and not the grocery store? Like, doesn't the grocery store sell bone broth? So I'd like to talk about that, but I'd also like to know what makes you different from the other bone broths. But first, the grocery store bone broth versus, and I'm wondering if you're going to say what I'm going to say, but I want you to go first.
I mean, there's multiple reasons. First of all, you're not going to know what sourcing actually looks like for most of those companies that have them on the shelf in the grocery store. They're very cheap. So that means that the ingredients that they're using are very cheap. So, they're getting their bones probably from all over the place and various different places. And you don't really have a background on, how the animals live, what the quality of life is, how their lives were ended, what the quality of the meat is, what they're fed. Like there's just so many different things that you can't really be aware unless it's a company that's making that part of their marketing, unless it's a company that's like proud of sharing that. So there's only like really one bone broth company in the human space that I really love, but unfortunately they use a lot of onion in their formulations. And so even though they say like share with your dog, like I tried, like that to me is like not necessarily good. Onions are highly toxic to dogs and cats. So most of the broths that are even like organic, it's for humans. They don't make the product with dogs in mind. So there's sometimes videos that you can find online that are like people recommending soaking like carrots in bone broth, but then you look at the bone broth ingredients and they have onion in there. So it's definitely something to think about. There's just multiple factors. Like you don't know the sourcing. The ingredients can be, kind of different. And then what typically happens is that they produce mass quantities at high heat. So like 450 degrees in like 4 hours of time. And then they fill that into plastic lined Tetra Paks. So you're getting plastic leaking into the product and your pet consuming microplastics and you consuming microplastics as well. And the mass production, like we produce, our temperature sits right around 200 degrees and we simmer for at least 18 to 24 hours. And then we fill into glass. So you don't have any microplastics leaking into your product. And just a much more sanitary process. And trying to think. Yeah, you're just going to get a better quality. And I mean, that's not to say, you know, sometimes it's just not in the budget, and I understand that. But if you find a truly high quality product that is made with proper ingredients, high quality bones, and, you know, thoughtful curation, it's going to cost you more. That's just the reality of it. So that's kind of why I would recommend staying away from store-bought bone broth, because you just don't really know.
The onions is what I was hoping you were going to bring up. So I had a friend of mine, and you know, she doesn't live local, so she always, you know, she'll message me and ask me things that she should go buy to add to her pet's food. And I told her bone broth, but it didn't even pop in my mind to be like, be careful what you buy, because to me, if I'm going to buy bone broth for my dogs, or my cats, I'm going to buy it in my own store. So, and I would assume that most people would do that. And she messaged me. She was like, my dog got so sick and was throwing up so bad from that. She was like, why would bone broth do it? And I was like, oh, did you buy it at a grocery store? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, please go look at the label for me right now. And I was like, is there onion in it? She was like, oh, yes, there's onions.
Yeah.
So it's just one that people don't think to look at. Even like when you see like the organic and, you know, whatever raised, onions are highly toxic to dogs. And her dog was small, so, you know, would it have made a big dog sick? Maybe not, but it did. Her dog was like vomiting profusely. And so, you know, so I always like to point that out to people, because most bone broth does have onion in it.
Yeah, and then also the sodium level is so much higher because it's made for human flavor. Like it's made for us to taste, for it to taste good to us.
Bone broth for us without salt does not taste good. So.
And that's why our broths, like, I don't know anybody, like I cook with our broths, but I only cook with our broths to make rice or soup or anything like that. Like I don't ever buy anything at the grocery store if I need broth, I don't buy it. I just use what I have and what I make.
Right.
And it's very bland. Like there is no salt in there. So for us, it's very bland, but the dogs are just fine. Like the taste to them is way more intense than to us. Yeah. So, you know, we have to season things a lot more for us to like it. And so the salt content is typically through the roof as well, sodium content. And I mean, there are no sodium options and there are low sodium options, but then again, the onion part is where it kind of crosses over and you're like, okay, is this even like gonna work? So, you know, I'm sure you can find some things that maybe would work, but I always think that, you know, especially store owners like you have done your job to vet the product. So you might as well, you know, get a product that you know is going to be healthy and not going to cause like other reactions. And I guess what's apart, bless you.
Thank you.
What sets us apart in the pet industry is I think that I still to this day drive around to all the farms myself and buy all the bones. And, you know, I go to the farm and I know exactly where the animals live. Sometimes I even know the animal's name. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Like, don't tell me. Like one of the farmers will be like, hey, you want to come pick out? And I'm like, no, I don't want to know. I like, no. So what really matters to me is all around well-being for all the animals involved. So, you know, obviously, ultimately, the goal is to heal our pets and help them have, you know, a healthy bowl and a healthy meal and long-term health. However, that doesn't happen unless you are sourcing properly and unless you are, you know, really doing your due diligence in the beginning part of where everything starts. So that's one thing that I think is really fun. And it takes a lot of time. Like there's times where I'll drive like, you know, 5-6 hours in a week just to go to the farms. Like the furthest one's probably like an hour and a half away, and I'll pick up from there. And, you know, I just know the families and their stories there. And I just think that's like really cool. And then I think our batch size right now is still very tiny, 72 bottles at a time. That's like, and so they have to be on all the time. And hopefully eventually, like if we can push into a warehouse space, hopefully the next year, you know, we will be pushing up, but I think we will never be making more than, you know, 1,000 bottles at a time, just because, well, that equipment's extremely expensive. And also I just feel like it's just not necessary right now. But none of that would change like the quality of the products. And then we're actually currently trying to work with a local, like, organic farm that grows all the veggies and herbs.
Oh.
And it is a completely untreated farm. So they have actually never had any chemicals on their land. So it's purely organic soil and everything.
That's
and they
amazing.
do everything like by the book. And we're trying to, I've been trying to work with them for a long time. And I finally talked to them at the farmer's market a few weeks ago. And they're like, yeah, come on down. And I just have to figure all that out. But, so there's always development. There's always trying to get better. And I'm the one who makes it all. So like, I'm the one who puts it in the pots. And like, I do have a couple employees, but they do other things. And so it's a very personal, business for me. And then, there's maybe one or two other brands on the market that are clean and like high quality and like, properly sourced and everything like that. But then a lot of other ones just have fillers and they have starches. They use tapioca starch filling. They use potato, just additional carbohydrates that we try to avoid with Crude because dogs are already, especially kibble-fed dogs, are already consuming so much starch that we don't want to add anything to it, especially in the form of broth where it's so easily absorbed into the body. And just avoid adding any sensitivities or reactions and making the body work harder. So that's why most of our broths are super plain. We're actually thinking of, completely removing anything besides bones. So that's something that I'm trying to work on for some of the formulations. But because there's even some dogs that are sensitive to dandelion, and you want to have something for everyone. So yeah, that's kind of what makes Crude what it is. We're just
one woman show.
Yeah, small operation, and
I love that.
It's really exciting having a kid because now it's like, how do we figure this out? And
that was terrifying for me when I found out that I was pregnant. I was like, how am I gonna have a store and have a kid? And then they just started going everywhere with me. So
yeah, it just works.
You figure it out.
Yeah, we're the production stays in house. We are working with somebody who's going to fulfill our orders out of Chicago. So we're going to hand that part off so that I can, still produce everything and keep the same, but I don't have to be packing orders every single day while I'm, with a newborn. So
absolutely.
But that's what we do and how we kind of function. And
that's awesome. Well, as a reminder to everyone, if you haven't commented, make sure you do that #Crude. So when I get ready to do the raffle for the ticket, you will be entered in. So bone broth. I mean, obviously, people are using it as a, to add on. Most people are using it just to get extra moisture. But let's talk about like what are some of the benefits of bone broth. I think there's a lot more benefits than people actually realize for bone broth.
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, first off, the hydration part, which I already somewhat touched on. It's so necessary for dogs that are kibble fed. And I'm not shaming anybody that feeds kibble because to me, that's just the affordable option for most people. Like we just started implementing dry food back into our dog's diet because I was literally spending like $1,000 a month on pet food. Like it's just, and I have a nutrition degree in, pet nutrition. Like you just have to do what works for you. And that's just the reality of it. So to me, having these options for toppers is amazing and kind of working with your budget. So the whole idea behind our broth is that it was hydrating. And that's also why you find that our broth may be more liquid compared to like a super thick broth that you squeeze out of a pouch. It's supposed to be simple for you. It's supposed to be where you take it out of the fridge and you can just pour it on, and it's not supposed to be more difficult, and it's still going to be healing. It's still going to be doing what it's supposed to do, even though it's not as thick. And that's a question that comes up quite a bit. It's like, why is your broth not as jelly? And it's meant to hydrate. We still use a ton of bones in our broth. We just don't go to the point where you literally can't get it out of the bottle. So, but yeah, the hydration aspect I love. Bone broth has lots of amino acids, which are just protein building blocks, which the body uses for everything. So one in particular that's really important is glycine. Glycine is very important for the liver to function at its best. And it uses that to produce things like glutathione, which is the number one antioxidant in the body. It's a master antioxidant. So that's really important to help reduce disease in the body and get things out of the body. And there's just various amino acid building blocks, and they're readily available. So the dog doesn't have to work very hard to utilize them, or cats. I always say dogs, but cats too. And they're
Cats
just
like bone broth, just everybody knows.
yeah, very good for cats. And cats can be weird that they don't want it mixed with their dry food or whatever, but you can just feed it to them, as an appetizer or as a snack, or there's different ways to do it. And with cats too, I know our bottles can be pretty big, but you can easily freeze in ice cube trays and then just thaw like 2 ice cubes at a time so that you can, use the broth up, since you're supposed to use it within 7.
I found with cats, if you take, whether they're eating, if they have like a canned food that they use or a raw food that they use, pouring some of the bone broth in there and mixing it in with it, it just makes it part of the can or part of the raw at that point, and they don't even really notice. My cats, I have a few that will just drink it by itself, but otherwise just use it for that. Cats are so picky, and I'm just gonna come out here and say this: if you have a cat that is only eating dry food, you are doing a disservice to your cat. You need to add canned, raw, broth, milk, something, because cats are chronically prone to kidney issues, kidney disease, crystals, etc. You need to get some moisture in there. So
yeah,
that's my soapbox topic for the day.
Yeah, cats are definitely a different subject when it comes to kibble. Like, I understand, some cats just imprint on it and that's all they want, but
oh yeah, it's like
I
use kibble, and I suggest to a lot of people, if you're gonna feed kibble, use it as the treat. Get like a treat ball and put the kibble in there.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we recommend bone broth for is joint health. Would you like to chime in on that?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I got on a tangent.
I got sidetracked. I cut you off, so sorry.
So yeah, bone broth is also great for joint support. There are, though, differences in what types of collagen you want. So actually, for a long time, until I really dove into this more in depth, I always recommended beef and pork for joint support. However, that is actually a different type of collagen that is much better for smooth muscle support. So really good for gut health and healing leaky gut. The better type of collagen is type 2 collagen, which is mostly found in very small cartilage-rich bones like chicken and turkey. So if you have a dog that you need to support for joints and ligament health, chicken and turkey, smaller bones like rabbit, that's better. For gut health and, stomach, like reflux, things like that, I would definitely recommend doing pork or beef instead. But yeah, for joint health, I think it's great, especially also because you have that, like, literally everything I feel like with broth comes back to the amino acid supply to the body. All of the whole body is like built off of, protein. So the whole body needs protein to repair, to replenish, to grow, to replicate cells. We need that. So bone broth provides all of that, allowing the body to properly heal itself and repair itself. So if you have a dog that struggles with joint irritation or joint pain, providing that bone broth in the bowl every day can help your dog heal itself and repair and regenerate some of that joint tissue and protect synovial fluid in the joints so that you don't have like bone on bone rubbing. And it is something that I will say with bone broth that the benefits are going to be reaped when you continue it. So yes, it heals very quickly, but if you, let's say, just do one bottle like here and there, you're not going to have the continuous healing benefits, especially if you have a dry fed pet. That dry food is doing so much damage that it's going to be really hard to catch up if you just supplement it here and there. And especially if you have a large dog, I think it's really hard because obviously everything's more expensive. But what I typically recommend for a large dog, let's say they eat 3 cups a day, add water to the bowl, like 2.5 cups of water to 3 cups of dry food, let that soak for 10 minutes. And then you can add like 2 to 4 tablespoons of bone broth on top. Obviously the more the better, but budget doesn't.
Yeah, I just don't.
Yeah. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. Obviously bone broth will be better, but budget wise, water is okay for the hydration aspect, but then bone broth for the healing. You can even feed the bone broth like as an appetizer beforehand. So if you feed your dog, their main meal, soak the dry food in water, but then give them the bone broth beforehand so that that's like working on the gut and doing its healing job. And then the meal comes in. So that's definitely an option as well. But yeah, joint health is a big one. Gut health is huge, immune system support, and it just supports the immune system by healing the gut. So a lot of times dry fed pets, which I don't say, no, I say a lot of times, most dry fed pets, pretty much all of them, are going to have leaky gut, which I like to look at the gut as like a cheesecloth kind of situation. And then as you have damage to the gut from kibble and medications and antibiotics and steroids and all this other stuff, you start to get holes in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
And big particles can pass through those holes, which causes major inflammation because those particles are not supposed to be in the body.
Right.
So we need to heal that. And bone broth has lots of collagen, lots of gelatin compounds that are like jelly, and they go in and they plug those holes back up. So that's how it supports the immune system, because you then have less inflammation in the gut, where the bacteria can then do what they do uninterrupted, and kind of the gut's healing itself. So that's also why, like, ideally dry food, you would try to reduce how much dry food you feed and try to add some fresh food into the bowl, because it reduces the stress on the gut. And stress on the gut causes inflammation, which in turn requires a lot of water. So when you have inflammation, the body's pulling water from other places. So that's why oftentimes you will find that a dog that has is just a dry fed dog has a lot of skin issues, dryness, dandruff, itching. The body pulls water, and it's going to pull from, it's starting to pull, but eventually It's not going to be on the outside anymore. So the skin will suffer. And when you start hydrating again, the body can kind of relax because the food has water coming in with it that it can utilize. So it's not dehydrating the body, but then when you have the inflammation, it's going to pull even more water. So you're in this vicious cycle where the body can't ever catch up and relax.
Mm-hmm.
And bone broth, you just have all the things. You have the hydration, you have, the gut healing, you have the liver support to reduce toxin load in the body. Like, there's just so many multiple factors. And then we use herbs. So we use parsley, dandelion, and thyme in most of our formulations. And those will help flush toxins out of the body in addition to what the bone broth is already doing. So our dogs are exposed to so many chemicals in the lawn, in our house, cleaning, I can go on a tangent about all of that and how non-toxic living supports your pet in so many ways. And you just really want to support your pet through all of that exposure. And that's just the reality of today's life, I think. So,
yeah. One thing that I would like to point out, because it's summer and it's hot outside, and I think when people think like adding bone broth, it goes to, I need to pour this over my dog's food. And I tell you, one of my favorite things that I do with bone broth, if you shop in the store, you know about this. You might know about otherwise the wolf popsicle toy.
Oh yeah.
That everyone is obsessed with. We have a whole table dedicated to this store. Well, they make a mold that you can make your own, and I'll put freeze dried food or fruits and veggies or whatever you want to put in there, and then I pour the bone broth over top of it, and I put it in the freezer. And it's so, I don't know how it is where you are right now, but we are going through a crazy heat wave in Virginia right now, and so that's a good one to get bone broth in, but also kind of turn it into an enrichment toy. And then you've got all the different lick mats and different slow feeder type enrichment toys. Bone broth is great in those to freeze them. So
I don't have one of those, but everybody I think that I didn't have one because not to hate on them, but they only at the time had the local store only had the ones that they make, the balls that they come with it.
Oh yeah.
And I don't really feed my dogs anything like that. And then I just never.
I make mine. Plus, there's so much less expensive to make your own version. Yes. And I sell the pops too, and people buy them for convenience. But the mold is fantastic for it.
I may just go with we're taking the dogs today for my birthday. We're taking them to the lake to go dock diving and swimming and stuff.
Oh,
and
that's so fun.
They have to go get a bath. So I may take them tomorrow morning to get a bath, and I'll get them some of those. And I just need to make that stuff and share it on my socials too, because I think a lot of people have those. And I feel it's and they're coming up with cool recipes. Cause I love making gelatin treats and ice cubes and all this stuff, especially right now. And I just am terrible at sharing those stuff.
No, I understand. Yeah, I think we've got. Did you put a recipe in the magazine at Summit? I can't remember.
It was a blueberry
yes,
ice cube thing. Yeah.
So we, if you're coming to the Summit, you will get a copy of the Summit magazine, which they actually came in the mail yesterday. I've been waiting for them, but there is a recipe from Flo in there that you can use for that. So speaking of summits. If you haven't purchased tickets yet, everyone, I'm going to throw that up there. If you use this code on the Eventbrite website for Crude, it's $15 off tickets that will expire next week, the day after my birthday. I have a birthday coming up too.
Is your birthday on 4th of July?
It is. I'm a 4th of July baby. Yeah. So 4th of July. So on the 5th, that expires. So use that code. We are getting pretty low on tickets. So I don't know that there will be any for sale the day of the event. And there is a link to the tickets in the comments. But with that said, again, put hashtag Crude into the comment section, because in a few minutes we're going to raffle that off. So Flo and Crude Carnivore, you are a sponsor of the summit. You have been for the past 2 years. So thank you for that. And you will have a table there with all of your bone broth on it. Flo gave me some sad news a little while ago that she can't actually come in person. Because, babies and stuff. So understood. But we will have a table at the summit with all of the Crude Carnivore. It's also in the store too. A little birdie told me that it is going to be on sale at the summit. That bird might be myself. So, so that's coming up. But yeah, super excited for the summit. We've got some great speakers this year. We've got Connor Brady, hilarious. Can't wait to hear from him.
So mad.
He's a riot. He's hilarious. Rita Hogan, as you know, Rita is a canine herbalist. And if you haven't heard, I did a live with her last week. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, because she's a wealth of knowledge. She starts like throwing different herbs at you to use. I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I don't know where I can get it. I don't know what to do with it. But she's a great insight for that. We've got Amy Rins from Goodness Gracious, Susan Thixton, Truth About Pet Food, Dr. Katie Kangas. So it's going to be a great event. So with that said, while people are still commenting with the hashtag, does anyone have any questions about bone broth? If you do, you can put it up and we'll try to answer it. I know it's like lunchtime, so a lot of people aren't on, and you'll watch this after. So if you comment on it later after the live, I can try to send it to Flo to get your question answered.
Yeah, we have had some time getting our schedule figured out.
Y'all got no idea. We were supposed to do this last week. You had something coming up, so we had to cancel it. Then I rescheduled it, and then I forgot I had something come up. So
That's crazy.
It's there's a lot going on around here. All right, well, get those comments in, hashtag Crude. I'm going to raffle. Colleen has a question. Can you overdo it on bone broth, and what is the recommended serving size?
I mean, you can overdo anything, but just depends on the size of your dog. I typically do 2 tablespoons per 10 pounds of body weight. I think our bottle says 1 tablespoon per 10 pounds, but to me, I like the food to be soaked. I like especially if you dry feed, I like it to be soaked into the kibble. So you do need quite a bit. So to me, no, but of course that is a high quality bone broth. That is a well-made bone broth that is going to actually provide good nutrients. If you are buying one from the grocery store, yes, absolutely. You can make your dog very, very sick. So if you do a high quality bone broth, I would say no. To me, I feel like it is so powerful and so healing. Me as a human, when I order it and have it on hand, which, throughout having a baby, I'm going to be drinking a lot of that. I drink 16 ounces a day. So I think, for a dog, having it daily is ideal, and it's going to keep your dog's or cat's body, kind of healing and in a healed state over time versus, just doing it here and there, like I said earlier, and then, you're kind of gapping. So I feel like doing it daily is definitely recommended, and I would say sticking to the 2 tablespoons per 10 pounds of body weight is probably going to be pretty good. That's probably a good maximum amount. And I also think that, I guess, in the sense that you can overdo it, is that you're kind of wasting your money. You don't necessarily have to feed, a whole bottle a day if you have a 75-pound dog to see impacts. You can, balance that out to where you go through a bottle in 5 to 7 days. So it's not necessary to go overboard like that and do that much. But I think the 2 tablespoons per 10 pounds of body weight is a really good place to kind of be. Or, you can do like anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons per 10 pounds of body weight. Just kind of depends on what works for your budget. And if you have a dog or cat that is really struggling with like gut issues and has sensitivities, that's a little bit different. And I'm always here to like, help with kind of a plan for that. Because, your dog may benefit from having a little bit more for a period of time to try to get ahead of an imbalance or, leaky gut or something that's going on. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I always like to reiterate, like, not every meal has to look exactly the same either, right? Like, one day you put a little bit in, the next day you put a lot in. There might be some days where you use milk instead of bone broth or water instead of the others.
Yes.
Knowing everything that I know about kidney issues and, I actually, Miss Bunny recently passed away she was in kidney failure, but she was in kidney failure for 2 years. And so I was lucky that I had her for 2 years. But my dog's bowls, they eat raw food, but their bowls typically look like soup.
Yeah.
I add so much extra moisture. And I usually do bone broth and I usually do milk, and I usually do both of them at the same time. And I'm talking about raw goat milk, everyone, not like pasteurized cow milk that you buy at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So mine typically like soup. So it also makes them eat slower when I make it like soup. So,
and it's hot. Like right now, if you think about the weather, like your dog needs it so much more because the body is automatically inflamed due to the heat. And if you spend quite a bit of time outside with your dogs, let's say you have a day where you're outside doing stuff, and like tonight we're going to go to the lake and they're going to swim and they're going to be hot and it's going to be, more exertion. There's going to be more inflammation in the body. We will have more moisture added to the bowl, for dinner. And so it's, definitely in the summer months, I would definitely think more about replenishing. Also, something that I want to mention is people often want to do a lot of cold in the summer. It's not necessarily better for your pet. It can actually cause the opposite. It can actually cause the body temperature to elevate because the dog has to work really hard to neutralize the temperature. So all year long, typically I recommend feeding room temperature food. So if you get like fresh food out of the fridge, let it sit on your counter for 30 minutes or heat up the broth in a saucepan and pour it over to neutralize the temperature to allow the body not to work so hard. So, a lot of times people want to make ice cubes and do all this stuff, which I think here and there is fine. But if that's all your dog is getting every single day, it's really causing the body to have to heat up even more, which can cause more inflammation and more strain. So
use them as like a treat almost.
Yeah.
Kind of what like the popsicle type deal.
Yeah. But the meal ideally would be, room temperature, body temperature, so that you don't cause more inflammation, and then also causing more heat in the body, which will just make them hotter. So, and you can also pick, cooling proteins that are going to, nurture the body in more cooling energy. So like duck, rabbit, pork is neutral, beef is neutral, just staying away from things like venison and lamb. That's just more heat inducing. And I know you have multiple foods in your store that, have all those different protein options. So
absolutely.
So yeah, there's, a little bit of a summer tip, but.
Yeah, well, it's so hot here. So
yeah,
I love that for me. All right, you guys, I'm over the heat already. And I like the summer, but this week has been a little too much here. All right, you guys. So we are going to raffle off a ticket to the summit. I would like to point out, if you already have a ticket, this ticket that you win does not replace that ticket. So if you already have a ticket, you can give it to a friend, and learning is more fun with friends. So let me pull this up. Hopefully it works. I've had it sometimes where it doesn't work. So let's see. Share screen. All right, you guys. Let's see. I don't know what my screen is doing over there, but, I feel like I need a drum roll. Well, I can't win myself. Oh, my gosh. I've never had that happen before. All right, let's try again. I want a ticket to my own event. I love that for me. Watch it do it again. That's a first, y'all.
That's hilarious.
It better not do it again. Don't do it again. Oh my
God. Well, now it's
going to be an interesting thing. Let's keep going here. I wonder if I can like remove my own name out of here. I don't know. Yay!
There you
Colleen, you won a ticket to the
Congrats.
I have never had that happen. That is very odd to me.
That's so funny.
That's fun. I'm glad I get to go to my own event. Isn't that great?
You're invited, I guess.
Colleen, send me a DM and I will get you the code for that extra ticket. And I think you already have a ticket, so now you get to bring a friend. So,
yay!
Flo, thank you for joining me on your birthday. And I'm so sad I'm not going to get to see you soon, but I do talk to you frequently. So
yeah,
you'll be here in spirit.
I'm sad. I really wanted to go, and
maybe everything will be well. And fingers crossed, maybe I'll see you at Super Zoo. So,
maybe we'll see.
Thanks again to everyone who watched our live today. If you watch it later, thanks for watching. Don't forget, use that code if you don't have tickets. I'll be back here on Monday with Jessica Fisher, the Pat Parrington Reset. And I don't know, I've got something, I think I've got Katie Kangas on here next week too. I can't remember. My schedule's crazy. So thank you, everyone. And I will see you all in 2 weeks at the summit. Bye.